Make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door.
Hi, everyone. We made it. We made it to Monday. Happy St. Patrick's Day. You know, there was a time about 10, 15 years ago that when I was in college, today I would have already been at some sort of Irish bar in Milwaukee for the last 5 hours drinking green beer. But here we are, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're joining us, and I hope you're celebrating today. Maybe you have the day off, but I'm glad you're here with us right now. This weekend, besides going out, I went out for a little bit on Saturday and to Waxhaw to see. They had a little St. Patrick's Day festival going on there, so I went there, and I realized that after New Year's Eve this year, that if I even have a few drinks, I'm hungover for 4 days. So I was good. I went on Saturday, and so I'm here. I'm 100% for you. So it was really fun. We also watched the movie, the Demi Moore movie, The Substance. I watched that finally. Here's my review. First of all, I'm not a big movie watcher because it's very difficult for me to sit in one place for 2 hours without getting up, getting coffee, having to go pee, getting a snack. So I'm a TV person, 44 minutes, 42 minutes, and then you move on to the next thing. But it was really good. One, we started watching it pretty late. After 7 p.m. I'm sleeping by then. So we started watching it. I stayed up for it. I stayed awake for it. And it's a weird cross to me between a outstanding Hollywood blockbuster and a experimental student film. So it kind of had both elements in there. She was really good. The whole storyline is crazy, probably not even that unrealistic in Hollywood. But it was a really, really good movie. So if you haven't watched The Substance, you should. I can see why she won awards. And also the girl who played the other part of her, I don't know her name. Where are her awards? Because she was fantastic. Okay. Also fantastic is the Before You Go podcast. If you don't know, outside of this show, I help other podcasters do their shows and their live streams. And Before You Go is a podcast from Abode, which is a nonprofit in San Antonio. And Abode is a 3-bedroom home where people can go in the last months of their lives and die with grace and dignity and be prepared for death. It's like a full comprehensive, let's make this the best part of your life. And they have a podcast, and it's amazing. And I'm lucky enough to help them with it. And a new episode comes out today, wherever you get your podcasts. So take a look at this clip.
But when you're helping people at end of life every day, and particularly when they're in a transition or active dying phase, all concepts of time and space fall away. And in fact, we had one resident who wore a watch all the way through her final breath for whatever reason. She liked having her watch on. And in the day or two before she died, she looked at her watch and she had a very wry sense of humor. And then she just looked up at me and she said, and she pointed to, she's like, this is meaningless to me. And it's true, all constructs of time fall away. So there's a way that it has expanded, again, in some kind of deep psychic sense almost, that time is infinity. There's no beginning, there's no end. And what comes before or after, I don't know. But just knowing that time is much more spacious and unbounded than we know.
You can get Before You Go wherever you get podcasts. You can also go to abodehome.org to learn more about what they're doing there in San Antonio. And if you need help with your podcast, go to Make Your Day Richer and send an email to makeyourdayricher@gmail.com, and we can help you out. All right, before we go, let's see how many views we're at. We started 2025 with 100,000 views. That was my goal when we started last June, by 2025 to have 100,000 views. Here we are, almost the end of March. Let's see where we're at, shall we? 321,968 because we like exact numbers around here. So that was before the show. So thank you so much for everybody who watches every day, for the people who show up, for the guests who are here who help support this show. And now's a good time to just share the show. Like, just wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, just press that share button and help us get to, 322,000 by tomorrow. Okay. Here we go. I think that is all I have to tell you. So we should start the show because we have really good guests today. Scott Allan is here. But first, my first guest is a creativity coach who believes everyone has the potential to be an artist. Her revolutionary approach, Make Bad Art, encourages us to embrace imperfection and rediscover the joy of creating for its own sake. Let's explore the power of soul collage and learn how to unleash our inner creative genius with Nancy Norbeck, who was supposed to be here last week, but technology is really fun. So please, fingers crossed, and say hello to Nancy Norbeck. Nancy, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited to talk to anybody who I feel like does something that I'm really good at, which is making bad art. And you, as a creativity coach and lover of bad art, I feel like we're going to get along just fine.
Me too.
Good. When did you become a lover of art? Let's start there. Like, when did you fall in love with art?
I grew up in a very creative household. My parents are not formal artists, but they both were choral singers and started me off in choir as a very small kid. My mom plays flute and was a flute teacher when I was a child. So there was a lot of music in my house when I was growing up. And the choir bug got me good. It's the reason that I applied to the college that I went to, which when I was a teacher, and my kids would ask me, like, how many colleges did you apply to? I was like, boy, the college people do not want me to answer this question for you, because I applied to one and I picked it for its choir, and that's not how you're supposed to do it. But yeah, the music got me good. The writing got me good by the time I was in middle and high school. So then I went off and I got my MFA. And it's just been kind of a hodgepodge. There's very little art that I don't enjoy in one way or another, though I always joke that my brother got the visual arts genes. I draw bad stick figures. He's an architect, so he got that one. But I love to act, I love to do improv, I love to sing, I love to write.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah.
Wow. Do you still do all of that?
Off and on, depending on, like the pandemic kind of messed with a lot of it. And these days, a lot of what I do creatively is focused on my own podcast and now helping people fight off their own perfectionistic ways by making bad art. So that's where a lot of it is these days. But I want to do more improv. I want to do more writing. I want to get back into singing, that kind of stuff.
Fun. So I worked for an arts and health nonprofit for a long time.
Nice.
And we worked with long-term hospital patients. And we did visual arts, we did music, and we did writing. And so many people were afraid to come to art classes because they were not good artists. And I would tell every one of them, well, then let's go make bad art. Like, this is not about the stuff you're going to hang in a gallery to sell. Can you talk about how you got into bad art and what you love about it?
Well, it's funny because one of the things about creativity coaching is that one of the biggest things that stops people is exactly what you just described. People don't start because they think they are not good enough. And in fact, when I was doing coach training and we started talking about perfectionism, I was absolutely convinced that I was not a perfectionist. It was like, seriously, if you look around my house, it is not going to be in Architectural Digest, right?
We're not going to Martha Stewart's house.
We are not going to Martha Stewart's house. My idea of perfectionism was that, all of your kitchen cupboards were perfectly well ordered, possibly according to color and the size of the can, And so I was convinced that I was not a perfectionist. And the mentor that I was assigned to was like, are you sure? which is kind of a telling thing, you know, like now I know pretty much every creative person. And since we are all creative, pretty much everybody has some perfectionism. But at the time I was like, no, seriously, I am like the least perfectionistic person you ever met. And then she said, are there things that you don't start because you know that they're not going to be good enough? And I just stopped and said,
Yikes.
oh, yeah, okay, I think maybe I'm a perfectionist. And because that had never occurred to me, you know, that would be a symptom of perfectionism. And
Mm,
it is just like, it's so pervasive and it messes with us in so many ways that we don't recognize. And what we also don't realize, because our culture tells us that everything we do has to be good and wonderful and our very best, is that the easiest way to shut down that inner critic in the back of our heads is to deliberately do it badly.
mm,
Because then the inner critic has nothing to say. You're not trying
yeah.
to do it well. So it can't get on your case about how bad it is because that's your goal.
Wow.
And it frees you up because, like, yeah,
Hmm.
I'm deliberately doing it badly. I'm going to make it even worse.
I
And
did that
then
on purpose.
I
Yeah.
did it on purpose. And then you can have fun with it. The play comes out. You start to remember how you did things as a kid. When you did things as a kid, you were not judging
Hmm.
yourself.
Hmm.
You were just doing it for the joy of doing it. And that's the part that gets lost when you focus on, I must do this thing that is going to be the best thing ever and will be absolutely perfect and meet all of these impossible standards. And then you start getting stuck and frustrated and all of the things that keep people from doing the stuff they love.
Well, when you're a kid, everything you do, you think is the most amazing thing that's
Yep.
ever been done. And you're so proud of everything and you want it hung on the refrigerator. And then at some point, someone tells you that you're not good at X, Y, and Z, and you start to believe them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is
That's,
why a lot of people believe they're not creative.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell everybody what you do as a creativity coach that's more than just like, you know, I'm just here to make sure you're out there making art. Like,
A lot of it is listening and noticing things that people say that they're not noticing and
mm,
asking questions about it. Because most of the time we have the answers, we just don't realize that we do because we're not noticing the things that we're telling ourselves, you know, that kind of thing. But
mhm,
also Kaizen Muse creativity coaching, which is a term that tends to make people go, I'm sorry, what did you say?
mhm,
Um, it comes from Kaizen is the Japanese word for continuous improvement through small steps. And
mm,
that's a big part of it. And then muse, like the classical muses of inspiration, is like reimagined creativity principles imagined as muses. And so we have those ideas along with a bunch of different tools that we can recommend, like making bad art, which is a broader term for what we generally would prescribe. And so there are specific things that we can recommend for certain circumstances, like taking small steps. When you are procrastinating or afraid to start something, a really, really small step, and I mean a really small step, like a small step that is so ridiculously small that you laugh at it and go, well, duh, of course I can do that, is a great way to get started because
mhm,
it's not going to scare you. It's going to make it easy for you to do what you want to do.
yeah,
If you have this step that is so huge that you're just like, there's no way I can do that, you're never going to start. But when it's, oh yeah, obviously I can do that, you'll do it. So
mhm,
things like that that help people get around the things that are scaring them, which are the things we call blocks. And
mm,
so all sorts of little tools for different circumstances and different fears and different, why am I stuck? That help people to just get around them. You don't have to actually destroy the block. You just have to get around it.
ooh, good one. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably steal that. What is the type of person that usually comes to you for coaching?
It could be anybody who feels like they're not getting where they want to get with their work. So, someone who had a practice and now for some reason they got thrown off of whatever they used to do. Maybe they had an actual routine and they were really good at it. And, a family event or an illness or something got in the way. And now they're just like, I haven't been able to get back to it. Or it could be that they've never really managed to do the thing that they wanted to do and they haven't got the faintest idea how to get started.
Mm.
It could be all sorts of definitions of stuck. It could be somebody who's had a thriving creative practice and suddenly for some reason it's just not working anymore.
Mm.
So any of those circumstances might lead someone to say, I need help, somebody help. And as far as the Making Bad Art course goes, it could be that you're just like, I'm stuck in this perfectionistic thing where I'm tired of feeling like I have to remake myself to be someone else to please everybody else. Or it could just be that I want to have more fun making stuff. Both of them, it all overlaps with Make Bad Art.
Yeah. When did you start podcasting? Because that's a completely different creative venture.
Yeah. It's funny, right? As a creativity coach, it's funny that I didn't really think of it as a creative venture when I started it, but it totally is. I am just finishing year 6,
Wow,
going into
congratulations.
year 7, which at the time when I started it, had no idea that I'd be doing it this long or where it was going to take me. It's an amazing thing. I highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Tell everybody, it's called Follow Your Curiosity. Tell everybody what they're going to find on the podcast and when it comes out.
It comes out every Wednesday.
Okay.
And every other week is an interview with a different creative person. And we look at how they got started, who encouraged them, if anybody, who discouraged them, if anyone, because I always think that that's a fascinating thing, especially if you had to overcome discouragement. But what I have found in my informal, non-scientific survey is that people who've been encouraged have a much easier time succeeding in their creative dream.
Mm.
And then, whatever else they have learned along the way. So it's a very wide variety of folks that I've talked to over the years with a lot of different experiences, a lot of very different conversations in this 6 years. And then on the off weeks, there is a short pep talk episode where I share a tool or some piece of wisdom, something that I heard about that I think is worth sharing. It's usually about 5 minutes long. So that's a very bite-sized little thing that you can check out very quickly. And, it's just a little thing to help you out along your way. So you can check them out, take them or leave them, but they're there.
They'll take them, I promise, because they're really good. Really good. And it's available wherever podcasts are available, obviously.
Yep.
Okay, good. I have to ask you about what a soul collage is.
Soul collage is a process that was created by a woman named Sina Frost, and it's an intuitive collage process where you have a card that's about 5 by 8 inches, which conveniently is the size that you get when you cut out an 8 by 10 mat for a frame. So, if you have a local frame shop and you want a card, you can go ask them for the bits that they've cut out of their 8 by 10s. And you just take images and you assemble them intuitively, whatever seems to go together to you. And then, and this is going to sound kind of strange out of the blue, in a workshop, we have people just, take one image to start with, but you let the images speak to you. So for instance, if you were really drawn to an image of a face from a magazine ad, we would have you hold up that image and imagine that it was talking to you and say, I am the one who, and fill in the rest of the sentence to kind of get the sense of how this works. And then once you get the hang of that, and there's no right or wrong answer, it's whatever comes to you. And then you can start doing that with other things on the card, and it's a way of accessing your own inner wisdom. It may sound kind of goofy and strange, and if you haven't tried it, I totally get that. It's definitely something that takes a little practice, but it's a really cool way of getting to know your own inner world and your own intuition a whole lot better.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And like, what a great thing to do, like in a workshop with other people, but also like by yourself when you're
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, yeah, so cool.
And you
What do
can make
you
them for like friends and family. So like if you make
Yeah.
one for your grandmother who isn't here anymore, it's a cool way to kind of have a conversation with her. Very cool.
That's awesome. What is something that, and maybe it's a soul collage that's very easy to do, but what is something that you would say for someone who's like, I'm afraid of, making bad art, but I want to start being creative. What's one thing that they could do today?
Write a small and crappy poem. I mean, it can be a
Yeah.
haiku. It can be just, three or four lines of free verse. Does not have to be good. The worse, the better. As we often say in Kaizen Muse, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. But if you give yourself the freedom to just sit down and write something terrible, for one, you'll probably get a good laugh out of it. For another, you'll have written something.
Yeah.
There's a great letter from Kurt Vonnegut that's been circulating around the internet, and Letters Live has read it a couple of times, where he gives students who wrote to him an assignment to go write a poem and not share it with anyone, and even tear it into pieces and throw it in the trash can, just for the exercise of, as he puts it, making your soul grow. He doesn't say it has to be good. It's just to do it for the sake of doing it. Go write yourself a small and crappy poem. Have a good laugh
Yeah.
at it. And be prepared for the fact that your small and crappy poem may actually turn out to be better than you expect it to be.
That's what I was going to say. You might surprise yourself.
You might, because you can't
Yeah.
make good art without making bad art. And a lot of the time when you make bad art, the good art sneaks out with it.
Oh my God, Nancy, I love you. What do you love most about your life right now?
I love watching people blossom when they learn how to get out of their own way and give themselves permission to be who they really are. It is the most beautiful thing to watch. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. So true. What is the best way that people can connect with you, find you, and support you?
Well, the podcast and the website are at fycuriosity.com. And the course is, as you said, at makebadartcourse.com.
Cool. Nancy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Come back anytime. Next time, I think we should make bad art on the show.
That would be cool.
Okay, let's do that. Because I have an entire notebook full of bad art that I should have shown. So I'm happy to make it live on air.
Fabulous. Let's do it.
Cool. Nancy, everybody, we'll be right back after this. Don't go away. Life is difficult. Are you feeling overwhelmed or like you could use a little support for your mental well-being? Visit the Help Hub. It's the most comprehensive and inclusive free online destination for mental health resources, helpful tools, crisis hotlines, and supportive content. Just go to thehelphub.co to find the resources you need when you need them most. Unlike other resource pages, the Help Hub is divided into 16 different categories, ensuring that everyone in every community has access to the resources and support that matches their unique needs. Find the help you're looking for at thehelphub.co. Welcome back, everyone. My next guest is an internationally recognized evidential medium who has touched the lives of thousands around the world. Scott Allan, the Boston medium, has the remarkable ability to bring through specific and heartfelt messages from the spirit world, offering healing and peace to those who are grieving. Scott is the host of the Enlightened Life podcast and the author of the upcoming autobiography, In the Presence of Light, a funeral director's journey from mourning to mediumship. I can talk. I do this for a living. Please welcome Scott Allan. Hi, Scott. How are you?
Hey, how are you? I think I have my head stuck up in your TV. I don't know what's going I got to sit lower, crouch down a little bit.
We can. We should have checked that. But you look good and you sound good, and that's all that matters.
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for being here. I have to ask, what is an evidential medium compared to, I don't know, other mediums?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's just another term, but evidential is really about bringing through pieces of evidence that prove that the continuity of consciousness exists. So things that I could not have possibly known, and just to give you just a quick little example, I had a show the other night, and it was up in Massachusetts, and I was thinking, we had this intermission, and during intermission, I kept getting this Coconut Grove fire thing, and I said, "Oh my God, I've got a lady coming through. I keep getting fire, Coconut Grove, Coconut Grove." And I thought, this is just weird. I mean, it's such a random thing. And I said it to the audience, and this woman raises her hand. My mother was supposed to be at Coconut Grove the night of the fire. She didn't go, but she had 2 fires in her house that she accidentally set over the years. And then it just kind of spilled on from there. And it's usually those little pieces of something that, you can't know. It's not just, gee, I have a mom here. Her name is Mary. You know what I mean? It's something kind of specific. And those are the things that I just love. And they amaze me as much as they amaze everyone else. I don't know how it works, so don't ask me. I have no idea why it happened. I have no idea.
You don't have a course on it. I know. I was gonna I think, I don't know what it is. People are so afraid to, I guess, believe in mediumship. Do you is it just because we don't like things that we don't know how to explain?
I don't know that it's, I mean, so there's always going to be the skeptic. There's always going to be the cynic. I'm not crazy about cynics. Skeptics are okay. That's healthy, right? But I don't know if it's a majority of people that don't want to believe. I think they want to believe. I think they're just not sure. And even if they do believe, they're not sure whether this one is real and that one's not. Because let's face it. I mean, there's bad everybody out there. There's bad mediums. There's bad doctors. There's bad podcasters. You know what I mean? So I mean, it can be anybody, and in every industry you have that. But when it comes to something like this, there's no explanation for it. So people. There is an explanation, and that's the one that's hard for people to grasp because they have to lean on faith for that.
When did you know you had this gift?
In hindsight, that's really interesting because in hindsight, it was there my whole life. And I look back, my book that you mentioned, it is out. Since you and I have chatted, the book has come out, and it's called A Funeral Director's Journey from Mourning to Mediumship. And it's Mourning, Mourning, because I went through 35 years as a funeral director. I owned 3 funeral homes. I knew something was not right. Something was going on, but I was a healthy skeptic myself. And I didn't think that this was it. It was not how I thought it was supposed to look. And it wasn't until I got out that I kind of had, it was like getting hit in the side of the head with a frying pan. I mean, there was no denying it, but I still wasn't saying that's what this is. I needed to find out from other people that that's what this was. So it was really, it was quite a journey, but in hindsight, it was there all along.
I always think that, and people say that all the time, where kids are so intuitive and young, and we sort of check out of that and we block that part of us. And then I think there are people like you who don't do that and just accept that maybe I did. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I worked in a funeral home. You can't walk around talking to dead people. And my dad was an engineer, very, very, very left-brained. There's no shades of gray. Everything's black and white and calculated. And, I mean, to be honest, I had a good career in the funeral business, and, he probably thinks I'm the biggest moron on this side of the earth doing this, but, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I felt like I couldn't not do it, but I was quite the skeptic, really.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Do you often find, when people find out this is what you do and what you're capable of, is it the first thing, what's the first thing people say to you? What's happening now? Can you read me now? It
depends. I mean, some people who don't know me will say, in other words, if you just meet a stranger and they find out, do you see anything around me? Yeah, that chair, that wall, that lamp, because, honestly, I'm just turned off all the time. And when I sit to work, when I'm in front of my computer doing a reading, or when I'm standing on a stage doing a presentation, they show up, but they don't show up the way you would expect them to show up. It's not like they walk in the room and they sit down and then I interview them. It's not like this. You don't see them that way. They speak to you in very, very different ways.
That's so interesting. Tell everybody about your book that is
Yeah.
out now, In the Presence
Yeah.
of Light.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's called In the Presence of Light. You mentioned it, a funeral director's journey from mourning to mediumship. And this is the story, really, of what it's like to awaken to this crazy, crazy world. And as you're going through it, not understanding what's really happened. So it's a little bit of an autobiography, which there was my takes me through my childhood. It takes me to my life in the funeral home, and then this crazy ghost story, which to be honest, that's what it was. It was a little bit of a ghost story, trying to figure out what the heck was happening to me. And so yeah, it's available everywhere. It's on Barnes and Noble and Amazon and Walmart and Goodreads, and anywhere you can get books, you can find it. And it is if you go on my website, you can see it and you can order it from there as well.
There you go. And his website's right
There
there.
it is. There it is.
MediumScottAllan.com. It's magic. Is this your first book that you've written?
It is. It is.
What was that like? What was it like to sit down and write a book?
Well, the funny thing is I didn't sit down and write a book. When I was going through these experiences, people said to me, you need to write this down because there's some crazy stuff happening to you and you won't remember it. And in fact, I was carrying around a recorder with me all the time so that I could record something, if I needed to. And then I had this like stacks and stacks of papers and recordings, and I thought, well, maybe I should put this in some kind of order, which I did. And then I showed them to somebody and they said, well, this is okay. But what happened before that? And how did you get here? And what made you get in the funeral business? So I started adding in the pieces. And before you know it, it was a book, but it was like a 4.5-year process. I mean, it wasn't, you know what I mean? I know some people who are real writers, they sit down and they like plow through it. There were moments where I didn't write at all. I just was frustrated with it and put it away. But once I knew it was supposed to be something other than a pile of notes, I really put my mind to it.
Now that it's out, would you write again? Or some people are like, I got hooked, and some people are like, never again.
No, I don't feel that way. I feel like I have other things I want to do, but I'm busy with things that I put off right now. I'm updating, a bunch of different things, and my podcast, The Enlightened Life, is new-ish, but I'm not new to podcasting. I've had other shows, and as my awakening kind of shifted, the podcast shifted, and I think I'm where I need to be now, and so I'm really putting effort into that and getting that moved along, and the website, which I've had, and I have a nice website, but I'm updating it, making sure that all my blogs are in there and my SEO is okay and all these kinds of things, because
all
I
that
feel
fun
like
stuff.
that's a full-time job. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job. Plus I do my stage events. I'm going to be in South Carolina, in Savannah.
Where?
All over the place.
I'm in South Carolina.
Charleston.
Okay. It's a couple hours for me.
Couple hours?
Yeah, I'm like 45 minutes south of Charlotte, right on the border. So
okay, so you're like South Carolina, north part of South Carolina. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I don't have dates. I sort of have dates. I think it's going to be in May, late May or early June. But I have my agent working with me, and it's sort of a fun story, and I'll share with you. Years ago, I was taking a trip to Scotland, and as I was getting off the plane, I noticed this really old lady. She's carrying her bag and she can hardly walk. And we had been on the tarmac in Boston forever. It was just a really bad delay. And so I said, do you mind? I'll help you with your bag if you like. She said, oh my God. She said, I'm really not this feeble. I just haven't had a cigarette in 14 hours and I'm about ready to pass out. So I carried her bag. I got her to one of those like little carts that you push, and I went on my way. So that night we had sort of a welcome dinner thing at one of the pubs or something in wherever we were. I can't think of the name of it now. And I I get there and there she is, looking sufficiently nicotine. She's got her lipstick on, she's got her hair done. And I sat with her and I chatted, and come to find out, she was the Andrea Perron who wrote the books that inspired the Conjuring movies. So she was the little girl who lived in that house in the 70s, grew up with her family, and they fled, basically after the mother got picked up and threw across the floor. And she started writing these books. They're called House of Light, House of Light, House of Darkness, or House of Darkness, House of Light, House of Darkness, House of Light. But they were purchased and made the Conjuring movies out of this. And if you watch the Conjuring movies, you'll see her and her family. It's not really her, it's actors that play her, but her character, Andrea Perron, is in the movie. So she's now like my best friend, and we like hung out the whole weekend.
Wow.
And so she does a lot of touring. She does a lot of appearances. She's been on different TV shows and podcasts. She has one of her own and that kind of thing. And so she called me the other morning, and I've convinced her to join me on this tour in South Carolina, and we're going into Georgia as well. We'll be in Savannah. So she's coming with me. It's going to be a mediumship demonstration, and she is going to be reliving her, telling her story about the Conjuring and growing up in the real house, the real Conjuring house. And so the two of us together are going to be doing this. I'm very, very excited about that.
What a match.
Yeah,
What
it was
a
just
match.
a fun, synchronicity. It's just one of those things.
And I'm
And
sure that
actually-
when the
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when the dates are announced, they'll probably be on your brand new fancy website, right?
Yeah, well, and the website's not fancy. The website is it's there. I'm just updating it, making sure all my blogs are there. And you know what I mean? I just got so busy with everything that I have a backlog of things to kind of get up and running and put on there. But yeah, no, it's funny. When I did my first radio show, it was because I was in Scotland, and they found out I was going to do a mediumship demonstration at this castle there. And this radio station in the UK said to me, would you come on our show? We have a show and would love to hear about what you're doing in Scotland. And so I said, yeah, I'd love to. And I did. And they offered me a show right after that, because clearly I don't shut up. So I can talk quite a bit. And so they said, no, we'd love
You're a
to
good
have-"
podcast guest. I can tell you that.
What's that?
You're a good talk show guest. I can tell you
Oh,
that.
thank
Yes.
you. Yeah. This is a 2-hour miniseries, right? We're going to keep.
Yes, it's a Barbara Walters special. Yes.
Right. So, I got that show, and I was doing this show in the UK from here, obviously, weekly. And from there, it went on to, I had that show called The Paranormal Project. And then I went on and I did this Spirit Talk Live, where it was a live show like this. We were to interview guests, but I started to feel like that was not really where I wanted to go. I wanted to have more of a polished product that I could put out that wasn't just about spirits, not just about mediumship, certainly not about paranormal, and kind of pull away from that a little bit. It's really about lifting people up and elevating their spirit. And so there's a lot of, I have someone coming on the show who's an organizer to help people organize their house. Things like that, to kind of lift your spirit and make you feel good.
Yeah. The Enlightened Life / Make Your Day Richer. We should have our own TV network, maybe.
Make your life enlightened.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love
where, and I'm assuming the podcast is available where all the podcasts are.
They are
available, right?
everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who would you say that the book is for? Who should be reading the Presence of Light?
Any number of people. I feel like, if you're going through a spiritual awakening on your own, if you feel like something's up and I don't get it, it'll help you understand what it's supposed to look like. But it's also good for people who just want a good old fashioned, it's really a ghost story, but it's the real deal. You know what I mean? This really happened. So, I think it'll interest anybody who's into mediumship, who's into the paranormal. And I think that's the audience, really.
What do you love most about your life right now?
Yeah, you know what I love? I love doing the shows. Honestly, I love doing the shows. And it's funny because it's hard to believe, but I was this really shy kid growing up who always hid behind my mother's apron. If my mother actually used an apron, I would have hid behind it. Let's put it that way. My mother never used an apron. But anyway, I hid behind her anyway. And then somebody about 25 years ago I was working in the funeral home at the time. I owned it. And I was really stuck. I was in a place I didn't want to live. I felt really trapped. And I needed an outlet. And I had met this guy who was doing some theater stuff, like regional theater stuff. And he said, well, they're doing a show or whatever it was, and you should come. And I'm like, oh, no, I could never do that. Well, he dragged me there, and I thought, oh God. And then I was horrified, absolutely horrified. But I went and I did what I had to do to audition for the show, figuring they're never going to call me anyway, so it's okay. And they did. And then I met this whole group of people, and I got the bug. And I realized after years and years and years of this that I didn't love the 8 weeks of rehearsal. I only loved the 2 weeks of performances.
Uh-huh.
And then I just, you know what I mean? I just got busy and life got in the way and that kind of stuff. So I didn't do it anymore. So now I get to do these shows. I don't have any rehearsal. I literally just walk out and stand there and say, okay, guys, don't go for coffee. Time to show up. Let's go. And they show up and I do my show, and there's a little humor with it, and there's banter back and forth. And yeah. So, I mean, so I think for me, that's the part that I love the most, honestly.
And what's the best way that people can connect with you and find you? Is it your website?
I mean, the media, the website, mediumscottallan.com is like the hub for everything. Although I am on Facebook and Instagram, although I'm not as big an Instagrammer as I probably should be. I need to hire a young person to do that and help me get all that stuff going. But
again, full-time job. I know.
Yeah, it's a
crazy.
full-time
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
But everything is on my website. I'm on a TV show called Dark Echoes. It's on Amazon Prime and Paraflix Paranormal Plus streaming service. And that you can find out about on my website. You can find out about the different shows and events that I'm doing, classes that I sometimes will teach. And so, yeah, everything's right there. That's the hub for everything.
I love that. You're busy doing the most. And I think that's so awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, good. And Scott is so nice that he's giving everyone in our studio audience a copy of his book. That's our studio audience. We don't have a studio audience.
Don't lie. Don't lie to them.
Everyone in the studio audience, everyone who is in this room right now is getting a book. Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Yes, I
everyone
know.
in the studio audience. Yes. Scott, it's a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for jumping on and spending the morning with me.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been great. I appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. The podcast is The Enlightened Life. The book, which is out now, is called In the Presence of Light. This is Scott Allan, everyone. And that is our show. Just like that, it's over. And we'll be back tomorrow. So go make your day richer. Go make somebody else's day richer. You've made mine by watching this show, and I love you for it. And we'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Bye-bye.